What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the overall market moving forward and why tomorrow is going to be a crazy day as we have Jerome Powell giving a speech. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. This offer ends in just 5 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So I just wanted to mention to everyone that when it comes to SPY on the 4-hour time frame, we're holding a very, very key support. Since mid-September, this thing has broken past its 20 EMA right over here. The green line has been critical for this stock. So we came down to the green line right here, our 20 EMA. We bounced. We came down here again. We bounced, and we touched this today, and we're trying to hold it. So the question is, are we about to get a rug pull and start dipping back down to lose it, to turn a little bit more bearish temporarily, or are we about to see a big bounce off this and start pushing a lot higher? Whether or not this happens and whether or not this dictates the whole market will be very dependent on some big factors, and one of them is going to be Jerome Powell's speech tomorrow. So I want to talk more about that first before I break down these charts. What's happening for tomorrow? Tomorrow is going to be Thursday, September 26th, 2024. Please note that 1 hour before the market opens, we have some GDP numbers coming out. This may affect Jerome Powell's speech. We're looking to see how the GDP growth rate is looking for Q2. This is going to be very important, might cause some volatility. If there's a lot more contractions in the economy that's reported, that could be a little bit weaker, at least for the economy and the markets. But at the same time, it could have an opposite effect. If the data is as expected, this could help the market push. And then besides that, initial jobless claims is coming out. We're expecting 222 to 225,000 in total. That's going to be another big factor that could affect the markets alongside GDP sales. Now, this is one big set of data that's coming out, but that's not the bigger thing. I think the bigger thing is going to be Jerome Powell's speech. So then tomorrow, at 9:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Collins and Kugler giving speeches from the Fed. And finally, at 9:20 a.m., 10 minutes before the market opens, okay, we have Jerome Powell giving his speech. Whatever this guy says is going to cause some crazy volatility, so get ready for that. That's going to be the biggest catalyst of the day, and this is going to cause a very, very wild move, in my opinion. I gave you guys a warning video about this. I said that, if you're holding anything overnight, you want to be a little bit careful. You never know what he could cause, so be prepared for that. Now, other things about the market, we have some bill auctions and Cash Curry also giving a speech later on, but all of that's very minor compared to what Jerome Powell's about to do. He speaks, excuse me, he speaks 10 minutes before the market ends up opening, by the way. So when Jerome Powell speaks, okay, just note that when he comes up, this is going to be the first time he speaks since the Fed has cut rates. So that's going to be very important for all of us. And whether or not he says anything significant is going to cause even more volatility. So, in my personal opinion, I think that when Jerome Powell speaks, he could cause a big pump or a dump, depending on what he ends up saying. If he is more dovish and he keeps on saying things about how the economy is doing fine, the Fed is going to be entering a rate cutting cycle, and we are expecting more cuts to be coming before the year end, that could help the market pump even more. We could be looking for new all-time highs again for the S&P 500. But if he comes out, he remains very, very ambiguous. He keeps saying that they have to wait for things meeting over meeting. The Fed is not sure what they're going to do yet. They have to wait and see what the data tells us. And he keeps saying that same stuff that he typically says. That could slow things down. I believe he's going to give us more insights about what he sees for the economy. He's going to be reacting to the GDP numbers. He's going to continue to say things that are very important. Considering the fact that the last 2 times he spoke, the market did pump, and the fact that he has been saying that the economy is strong, things are going to be fine, and he implied the Fed has more plans to cut rates. They just don't know yet as they're waiting on specific data. But because he's been saying things like that, right, it makes me think that he's most likely going to be doing the same thing, which makes me lean in the direction of him trying to pump things. I don't know for sure, though. We'll see what he ends up saying, but just know that that's going to be very important. All right. So for other factors out there involving the markets, I also want to mention that we have other catalysts out there. We also have other pieces of data that are going to be very important. But the main thing is going to be Jerome Powell's speech. I also want to mention to everyone that right now the market thinks there's about a 59% chance we get a 50 basis point cut and about a 40% chance, or almost 41% chance, we get a 25 basis point cut. We'll see what this ends up doing once Jerome Powell starts his speech. Will he help this one go up more, and while this one drops, the odds of us getting the 25 basis point, if that one drops, and the odds of us getting 50 basis points goes up for the next cut, that could be more bullish for the markets. If this starts going down and this starts going up, that could be a little bit more bearish. So we'll see what Jerome Powell causes. Right now, greed is making up the majority of sentiment. The market is still getting bought back up. Momentum is still at greed as we're holding some very, very key supports. And then we're seeing a lot of puts being closed and calls being bought as the market's greedy. And the VIX is continuing to remain neutral as it's dipping as I speak. So that's something else that's worth noting. We also have Costco's earnings for tomorrow if you're interested in playing that. These are the rest of the earnings. I'm not really going to be playing too many of these, but if you're interested, you could check it out. Anyways, what do I see for the charts? What is most likely going to happen? Well, it's very simple, guys. It depends on Jerome Powell's speech and the data coming out for tomorrow. If we hypothetically lose 568, if 568 fails us, okay, if this support fails, we could be looking for a dip all the way down to 565 all over again. So that's going to be our critical support, 568. If we get an opposite reaction and we hold our 20 EMA and start rebounding, we could be looking for a test of 572 tomorrow. And if Powell pumps us, we could be trying to break all-time highs again and get very close to 574, if not 575. So are we about to see a rug pull? Are we going to drop 5 points to 565 by losing 568? Or do we continue to pump and break past 572 to push to new all-time highs closer to 575 for more than 5 points to the upside? In my opinion, I am in the middle right now. I'm in the middle. I think we could go either way. But considering the fact that Jerome Powell did pump the markets many times already, and the fact that we're still holding our 20 EMA, the chart technically does favor upside a little bit more, just a bit more. So we'll see if we get one kind of pump with Jerome Powell's speech or not. And make sure you're very, very open-minded for anything just to be safe. We will see if we hold our key supports. So if SPY holds 568, we're going to be fine. 570 would be even better. So we'll see. Anything could happen, but I do want to say that this chart does technically favor upsides. We're holding our key supports. We haven't lost key support to turn bearish quite yet, so we just have to wait and see. But so far, it does technically favor the upside. For ES, it's the same thing. So notice on ES, okay, we've been hitting our 20 EMA. We hit this, bounced, bounced again and again and again off the 20 EMA. This also could be looking like kind of like another cup that's forming, maybe a handle could be forming. So we'll see. If we're bearish, if Jerome Powell gives us the rug pull, you want to see 57.75 break. If that fails us, we dump all the way down to 57.50. If we hold 57.75, we're looking for a push for 5800. If that breaks, we're going to be looking for new all-time highs on these charts. So in my personal opinion, I think that there's a good chance that this tries to push higher, tries to go for that 5800 plus mark, and favors upside in my personal opinion. I think that because we're holding the support, it does look like it wants to go up to at least 5,800 or higher. But just to be safe, despite that looking more probable, technicals are not everything, as Jerome Powell's speech is going to be another big factor. So we'll see what Jerome Powell causes. The chart still remains bullish as we're holding key support on ES as well. How about Nvidia? Nvidia is holding up very, very well. Got a nice inverse head and shoulders. If we end up rejecting, we're looking for a rejection off 125. We're looking for 122 as the next level. If that fails us, we get the rug pull back down to 118. If we do the opposite and we break past 125, I think we could be going all the way up to about 128. So break 125, we're looking for 128. And if we get the rug pull, we're looking for basically 122, 120, and then 118 all over again. With the inverse head and shoulders here, we favor upside for the 128 area. So we still look more bullish on Nvidia. We'll see what happens here, at least moving forward. But so far, the chart favors upside in terms of its setup, and it's still looking quite good for the bulls. For others out there, we have Bitcoin, which is dipping a little bit. We have a double top like structure, but we haven't lost critical support yet. Although it might be dipping towards 62,750 to about 63,000, could dip a little bit. We'll see if we get a bounce off that to try to get back above 63,500. So look for a little bit of a dip and possibly a bounce if Jerome Powell pumps the markets. If he gives us the rug pull, we want to see us lose 62,600 has to break if we turn more bearish. My gut tells me it's going to dip a bit, then maybe try to rebound depending on what Jerome Powell says. As long as we don't lose 62,600, we favor a bounce on Bitcoin, a dip and a bounce. Tesla looks very bullish. It's continuing to break out, hasn't lost support quite yet. When you look at the 4-hour time frame, we have a nice looking cup-like structure. If we want to be bearish on Tesla, you want to see it basically lose 250 and close below that. That's going to be a signal. It might be retesting 244. As long as we hold 250 on Tesla, we're going to likely favor a push all the way back up to 260 plus. So we're still looking more bullish. We could gap down tomorrow. I think we're going to gap down, and then we'll see what Tesla does. After Jerome Powell's speech, he could help us eventually start pushing, and 260 plus becomes very possible. Now, just know that And when I said gap down, I'm not talking about open, I'm talking about the pre-market. And during the pre-market, we could gap down. Then when Jerome Powell starts his speech 10 minutes before open, then we could bounce. I just want to clarify that. We still look more bullish nonetheless on Tesla. We could be looking for a dip and a bounce. And so far, it's holding up well. Interest rates are very important for Tesla because it affects their sales. So please remember, it's very sensitive to them. That's why when Jerome Powell gives us any insights about monetary policy shifts, it's going to have a very, very profound effect on stocks like Tesla. For NQ looks bullish because if you look at the 4 hour, look at the last couple of weeks, we're forming a nice accumulation. We touched the 20 EMA, we bounced, touched it, bounced, touched it, bounced. And we're holding it very, very, very well. If we lose 20,000 flat, very close to where our 20 EMA happens to be, we're looking for 19,800 as our next potential target, previous resistance becoming support. And if we're bullish, as long as we hold at 20,000, we're looking for a big push for 20,400. There's a good chance it's going to be trying to get up there. I want to notice that we have a nice double bottom like structure. We look more bullish, and 20,400 is looking very, very favorable to me. We also look bullish because the PPO is trying to push higher. So this chart looks like it wants to go up to 20,400 to 20,500, and Jerome Powell may give us a pump. That looks more likely on this chart, but just to be safe, we'll wait for confirmation. As long as we don't lose 20,000, we favor 20,400 or higher. The QQQ looks more bullish because first thing, we're holding our support. What do I mean? Look at the green line. The same setup is all over SPY, ES, QQQ, NQ, and all the others. We touch our 20 EMA, we bounced, touched it, bounced, and we're still holding it very well. So I want to call this out. When you look at the daily, we still look bullish. We are approaching this gap resistance near the 488 area. If we break that tomorrow, we're looking for a test of about 490. Then eventually this gap fill will take us all the way up to the mid 490s. So the QQQ could be looking for a breakout depending on what Jerome Powell says. He might be the catalyst. The setup looks more bullish. It favors upside. But if we were to lose 480, there's going to be a rug pull coming. This does not favor that. It favors upside, if anything. So the odds favor us trying to break out higher tomorrow, depending on what Jerome Powell says. For Apple's in the middle. We got a decent candlestick, but just know that there could be a flag forming. So when I go to the 4 hour time frame, you will see that right over here, we have this flag that's starting to form on Aapl just like this. If we're bullish, you want to see Aapl break out of this and start pushing above 227. If that breaks tomorrow, we're looking for a breakout for 228 plus. If we're bearish and reject, we're looking for a dip back down to about 224. If that fails us, we have a gap to fall all the way down here at 222. So lose 222, lose 224, we turn more bearish. We're looking for 222. If we break past 227, we're turning more bullish on Aapl tomorrow. We have a nice looking bull flag like structure that could lead to a nice breakout. So this is looking pretty good, and this could lead to more upside. We will see if Jerome Powell gives us that break. So give this the time it needs. For other factors out there, we have Palantir. Palantir is holding up decently. If Jerome Powell gives us the pump, this imbalance fills, we go up to about 38. If he gives us the rug pull, you want to lose the support right over here, which should take us all the way down towards 36. So we will see, do we get a rug pull to 36 or do we just continue to break out to the imbalance closer to 38? I would say we're holding up very well. This looks bullish technically as we are still above our 20 EMA. So the odds do favor this upside move on Palantir. We will see just to be safe. However, for Supermicro, we did dip a bit as I was talking about before it tries to rebound. I mentioned this in my video yesterday, and that was 100% correct. We came down to my target at this 460 area as well, all the way down to about 455. We came just short of that, but it's still fine. So from how this is looking, we have to try to bounce off 455. If we bounce off this, we could be looking for the 470s. If we lose 455, we're going to be dipping back down towards 444. This is favoring a little bit of a dip and a bounce back up to the 470s. It looks like it wants to bounce, but just to be safe, we will see what Jerome Powell ends up saying. So be prepared for that, guys. For Rivian, we dipped quite a bit. We're down to the 11s right now. We're continuing to fall. We got some bearish news, so it's no surprise. However, we're going to try to base it around 11. We'll see if Jerome Powell helps us bounce off 11 or not. If we lose 11, we're looking for 10.5. If we hold 11, we could be bouncing back up towards the 12s. So far, it's at support, so we'll see if we bounce. So give it the time it needs. For SoFi, we're on a bit of a downtrend right over here. However, just know that we are trying to like base right here. So it's attempting to base. If Jerome Powell gives us the bounce, you want to break past $8, 7.9 at the very least. And if we're bearish, you want to see this thing basically dip all the way down towards 7.6. Technically speaking, it looks a little bit more bearish. It looks like it wants to be coming down to this imbalance towards 7.6 before it tries to bounce. So it might try to dip a little bit before it tries to bounce is the most likely move, but we will see what Jerome Powell causes. The IWM Russell 2000 is dipping. We're approaching support at 216. I called that out because right over here we did see this thing bounce. So it's basically very simple. Right here, this thing bounced off this 216.8 to 216 area. So we could be bouncing off that on the IWM. It looks like it might dip a little bit more tomorrow during the pre-markets. And then Jerome Powell's speech is either going to cause this thing to bounce back up above 218 to 220, or we're about to get a rug pull all the way down towards 212. So we could dip a bit, then we'll see if we get a bounce. We'll see how things end up going from here. I think we might dip a little bit more to 216, and then we'll see if Jerome Powell causes a big bounce for 220. We'll give this some time just to be safe. For other factors out there, AMD looks more bullish, so we have a very nice looking double bottom like structure. If we break out higher, we're looking for basically this 166 area followed by 170. If we're bearish, we want to see this reject off 165 and start dipping back down towards 160. This is looking more bullish. It looks like it wants to go up to at least 166. So AMD looks a little bit more bullish to me, forming a nice double bottom. In order for this to pan out, this depends on what Jerome Powell says. The technicals do favor upside for the mid 160s, so we'll see if that ends up being the case. For ARM, we look more bullish. If we get a pump tomorrow, we're looking for 150 plus. If we reject, we want to see this thing basically lose 145 to start dipping back down to 142. This is favoring 155 than 152. It looks more bullish to me. For Coinbase, we are looking a little bit weaker right now. We have been dipping a bit, especially because of Bitcoin. So we have this resistance at 168, and we have support all the way down here at 165. It's kind of stuck in the middle. If we're bearish tomorrow after Jerome Powell's speech, we're looking for 165 or below. And if we're bullish, you want to see it break past 168 at the very least to start pushing for the 170s. We will see which way this goes, but give this the time it needs. Could dip and then bounce, and we'll see how things end up going. I'm going to be very patient with all of this, especially with Powell's speech, so be very careful. For Amazon, we're trying to hold support. It's doing a good job so far. I think it might be dipping to 191.5 tomorrow during the pre-market. And then when Jerome Powell starts his speech a little bit before open, he could cause a big bounce back up to 195. But if we lose 191.5, we could be dipping back down to about 180, 190, then 188 below that. We will see what Jerome Powell causes. For Meta, we have a bearish divergence. If we're bearish, we want to see this basically lose 560. If 565 breaks, we're looking for 560. But if we break past 575, we're looking for 580. Will we push for 580, 580, or will we end up dipping to 560? We're kind of in the middle right now. This is going to be dependent on what Jerome Powell says. So far, the chart is technically more bullish, but it looks like it might dip a little bit during the pre-markets to about 565, and we'll see if we get a big bounce to 580 or not. So look for a dip tomorrow morning. We'll see if Jerome Powell causes a bounce after that or not, so be very patient. For Microsoft, we're barely at this range right here. If we break 433, we turn bullish. We're looking for 435 plus. If we're bearish, you want to lose 428 to start dipping back down to 425. 428 being lost is bearish. 424 breaking is more bullish. I'm sorry, 433 breaking is more bullish. Excuse me, guys. We're stuck in the middle, so give this the time it needs. We will see what Jerome Powell causes. Now, Google has a head and shoulders like structure, which is kind of weak. It's also below its 20 EMA. If we lose 162 tomorrow, we're looking for a rug pull back down to 160. If we break past 163, we're looking for a bounce. This looks kind of bearish, so just be careful, guys. There is a risk of downside, so we'll see how things go. For GJT, we got the bounce I was talking about. I mentioned everyone this might dip towards and try to base towards 12 before it tries to rebound. Now we're above 13.88. If we hold above this after Powell's speech, we're looking for 15.4. If we lose 13.88, we could be dipping, so we'll give this some time. For the VIX, we're dipping right now. We're going to have to see if we fully fill this gap to dip a little bit more. And the VIX is going to make a big reaction depending on what Jerome Powell says. Same thing with the 10-year Treasury yield. This depends on Powell. Will he give this the rug pull, which pumps the markets, or will this go higher and do the opposite? We're just waiting to see what the yields end up doing. The dollar has been trying to rebound, but just know that the dollar set resistance again at 101. If we reject off 101, the market may pump. If we break past it, start breaking out, depending on what Jerome Powell says, that could be bearish. So the market looks more bullish. It looks like it wants to bounce off support and start pushing, at least most stocks out there. Some stocks look a little bit weak, such as Google. So it's kind of mixed, but overall, the NASDAQ, the QQQ look more bullish. So whether or not these technicals are correct depends on what Jerome Powell says. So be prepared for anything at this point. When Jerome Powell gives his speech, just know that for the last couple of times he spoke, he did pump the markets. So the odds do favor that, especially because the Fed has already cut rates. If he gives us more hints that the Fed is planning on cutting more rates, or if they do anything like that and the market likes it, there could be a nice pump coming depending on what he says. My job here is just to give you guys some insights about that. I'm not here to kind of like be a fortune teller or make any promises because I don't always know what Jerome Powell will say. But for now, just know the odds are technically favoring upside a little bit more because what Jerome Powell has been saying for the last couple of FOMCs and also for the last couple of speeches he has given. With that being said, Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys have a good day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are all over the globe. And I hope you guys really take care amidst all the chaos in these markets. I'm going to be honest, the market's pretty choppy, pretty crazy. It can be very tricky to predict and trade sometimes. But the best thing to do is just keep your composure, remain calm, cool, and collected, and be very patient with your entries. You want to be very careful with them in a market that's just like this. With that being said, thank you so much once again. I'll see you guys tomorrow before the market opens to give you guys another update. Until then, have a good night, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow. Thank you for listening, and peace out.